Hello and welcome. Tonight, Nigeria is a failing state. Former INEC chairman, Professor Jega, raises the alarm, calls on leaders in the country to dialogue and ensure the nation is restructured before the 2027 general elections. Federal government refutes rumor of COVID-19 resurgence in the country, says there is no scientific evidence to back the claims. Labour Party governorship candidate drops petition challenging the election of Governor Fubara amid gale of resignations from the State Executive Council as two more members quit the cabinet in Rivers State. And the IDF says 3 Israeli hostages mistakenly killed in Gaza by the military while holding up a white cloth on a stick.
And on business news tonight, the local bourse marches on in bullish territory, with the all-share index hitting a new high over 72,000, closing the week up 1.18%.
And on sports news tonight, Bournemouth clash with Luton Town in the English Premier League abandoned as Tom Lockyer suffers cardiac arrest on pitch.
Restructure Nigeria before 2027. But that's the call from former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Jega, to leaders in the nation. Professor Jega, who described Nigeria as a failing state, adds that power devolution to the subnationals has become critical for the nation to develop. Well, this formed part of his recommendations for safeguarding Nigeria's future at the maiden combined convocation lecture of the Bauchi State University, Gado, while slamming the political leadership for what he described as reckless spending and abuse of power. The former INEC boss lamented the high cost of running the presidential system of governance in the country, which he says has become defective.
I have a section in the paper where I have clearly delineated with statistics to show how lack of these values and orientation, how bad governance, and how lack of good leadership actually is pushing Nigeria towards becoming a failed state. As I have said, I don't believe Nigeria is a failed state, but I think, and we need to realize that Nigeria is a failing state. Nigeria is a failing state. And if we don't take care and we put it in jeopardy, we can't safeguard it, then the worst can happen, God forbid. So my argument is that between now and 2027, we need to pull our heads together, have a reasoned, rational, evidence-based process of restructuring the Nigerian Federation. And to my mind, the major thing we need to do is actually to deconcentrate power and the resources from the federal tier and spread them to the state and local governments. Even if all we do is to go back to the way in which power was distributed in the 1963 Constitution, we should do that. But I even think we should go beyond that, because we need to reduce the power of the federal government, because in fact that power of the federal government, in which whoever is elected president controls virtually all the resources, creates the reality, but more importantly the perception that those are used against one group vis-a-vis the other.
And we turn our attention to a major national health indicator, that's nutrition. Well, the federal government has inaugurated the National Core Working Committee on Nutrition, pledging to reverse the current negative indices of nutrition in the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who inaugurated the committee at the presidential Villa Abuja, says the president is passionate about ending poverty and hunger. Our State House correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
A 2023 press release by the United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, estimated that about 2 million children in Nigeria suffer from severe acute malnutrition. The report also shows that 5 out of 10 children under the age of 5 years suffer from the effects of being malnourished, and only 2 out of the number are able to access treatment. These disturbing statistics has prompted the formation of a National Core Working Committee on Nutrition, which Vice President Kashim Shettima is here to inaugurate. In a statement issued by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Communications Office of the Vice President, Senator Shettima says the current administration is determined to upturn the negative nutrition indices of Nigeria and charged the National Core Working Committee to begin from the most vulnerable communities. Among other things, the committee is to collaborate with the National Committee on Food and Nutrition to spearhead the fight against hunger and malnutrition across the country.
About 88 out of 100 children are most likely not able to get to the age of 5 as a result of nutrition. It's also caused an economic burden of over $2.5 billion. So these are some of the actions that the Nutrition Core Working Group will be looking at to change, like I said, the narrative and to make sure we have measurable outcomes that would shift the needle of the malnutrition challenges here in Nigeria.
The immediate past administration, through the National Council on Nutrition, had approved a 5-year National Multi-Sectoral Plan of Action for Food and Nutrition 2021 to 2025 to, among other things, reduce the proportion of people who suffer malnutrition by 50%, increase exclusive breastfeeding rate to 65%, and reduce stunting rate among under 5-year-olds to 18% by 2025. So what is this committee going to do differently?
Right now, there's a lot of siloed efforts going on. So people are working on different things. Some people are working on CMAM, some people are working on prevention, some people are working on agriculture, some people are working on RUTF. And really the idea is, how do we put everybody's efforts together so that we're all moving in the same direction and we can count the impact together of what we're doing. So that's what we'll do differently.
The National Core Working Committee on Nutrition has been given a marching order by the Vice President, and it is expected that in days to come, results will begin to emerge. From the Presidential Villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, staying with health, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, has dismissed reports of a resurgence of COVID-19 in the country, stating that there is no scientific evidence to back the claims. Professor Pate declared this at the maiden public lecture series of the Federal University of Health Sciences, Sotoko, in Benue State.
In a typical academic environment, consultants from Nigeria's Pioneer Medical University, established to train skilled medical workforce, file out in procession for the maiden public lecture series of the Institution on Medical Research. The Vice-Chancellor mounts the podium to shed light on the lack of medical research and consultants to drive the process of preparing skilled medical workforce and academic endowments prior to the establishment of the university in 2019.
We have the vision of the University of the Federal University of Sciences to be a world-class institution for learning, scientific research, innovation for developing the next generation of healthcare providers. That's our vision. That is the vision. And our mission is to build the capacity of healthcare professionals through integrated medical education, professional skills, research, providing access to quality healthcare.
The Coordinating Minister for Health and Social Development is represented at the event by a senior special advisor, and he uses the opportunity to dismiss the rumored resurgence of COVID-19 in the country.
The diagnosis of COVID is a scientific process. It is not something that is subjective. It is not something that people speculate about. There could be speculations quite rather than suspicion, but once investigations are conducted and it is confirmed that, look, it's not really a case of COVID, it is not COVID. In terms of pandemic, no, Nigeria has, in fact, the whole world recognizes the role Nigeria played in its effort towards containing pandemics First, there came Ebola virus. Nigeria was number 1 or thereabout in terms of its control. And then COVID-19, we didn't fare bad at all. As a matter of fact, our health sector, our performance, in spite of the status of our health sector, is among the best in the world.
While stakeholders and students from the first Nigerian Specialized Medical University expressed confidence in the growth of the institution, the lawmaker representing Otukpo Ankpa at the State House of Assembly announced a 5 million naira science-based endowment.
There's every need for us to elaborate more and do more about this endowment fund. And I think by next year, as a person, I'm going to do an endowment fund of another 5 million naira to help secondary school pupils to get more into sciences.
Since we started, we have recruited over 30 consultants who are lecturers who also provide clinical service. So it is something positive for not just Benue South Senatorial District, but for the whole of Nigeria. And we have started training medical students already.
The Pioneer Medical Research and Training Institution for Skilled Medical Workforce in Nigeria now has 30 consultants, over 300 medical students in training, a teaching hospital, and a dedicated kidney dialysis center donated by a foremost Benue legal luminary, Mr. Godwin Obla, in the post-COVID-19 era.
Meanwhile, the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has destroyed adulterated wines and other products which were confiscated in the popular cemetery market in the commercial town of Aba, Abia State. The director of NAFDAC in the Southeast Zone, Mr. Martin Iliyomade, says the market will remain shut to avail the agency the opportunity to carry out proper sanitization after the discovery of large-scale production of fake products in the market. He stated this during an enforcement operation.
You can see behind me everywhere, the whole of this section of the market. Every shop you see here is a factory. Every single shop you see is a factory. And then everybody is manufacturing products. Number one, there are two sets of illegality going on here. Some set of people are manufacturing products of other people in large quantity. So much so that the other people might not even know the difference between their product and the one that is manufactured here. Manufacturing under a very bad environment, poor GMP, using banned chemicals, colorings, with the raw materials we saw the other time. All they do is just get a rubber, a mixer. So then use just this normal sieve, just sieve and put into bottles for people to drink. But my fear is that this is Utah period. A lot of people have bought drinks in the house. You don't even know where the source of the drinks you have bought. We've had a high level of increase in renal failure, kidney failure, and all of that. And some of them are major result of this poisonous things that people are taking in.
In part two, after the break, more twists in the political situation in Rivers State as two more commissioners resign. Plus, increasing interest in education among internally displaced persons at the Home for the Needy Foundation in Ondo State from call for textbooks and other learning tools for IDPs. So that's in a moment. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television Lagos. Well, here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigeria is a failing state. Former INEC chairman, Professor Jega, raises the alarm, calls on leaders in the country to dialogue and ensure the nation is restructured before the 2027 general elections. Federal government refutes rumor of COVID-19 resurgence in the country, says there is no scientific evidence to back the claims. Labour Party governorship candidate drops petition challenging the election of Governor Fubara amid gale of resignations from the State Executive Council as two more members quit the cabinet in Rivers State. And the IDF says 3 Israeli hostages mistakenly killed in Gaza by the military. River State, South Nigeria, where the Labour Party in the state has dropped its election petition case challenging the victory of Governor Siminalayi Fubara of the People's Democratic Party, the 2023 governorship election. Well, the LP governorship candidate, Mrs. Beatrice Itubo, made this known to Channels Television in her country home in Ogbakiri, Emoa local government area after a meeting with Governor Fubara. She pledged to support Governor Fubara's government for the prosperity of the state, but then affirmed that she remains in the Labour Party, and she says this can be a healthy opposition.
After the elections, we are dissatisfied with the outcome of the election because what we saw wasn't what we were expecting. But then at the end of the day, we went to the tribunal, the court said otherwise. We went to appeal, the court said otherwise. And because of the current happenings in Rivers State, we feel that the interest of the state is far more paramount and important than each and every one of our own expectations or feelings or anybody at all. So we are looking at it from the angle of the people. People have said, let us allow government to move on. Let there be good governance. And there cannot be good governance without peace. And so we looked at the whole scenario and we said, enough is enough. Let us go back and ask our lawyers to withdraw the suit so that we can join hands with the present government to see how we can move the state forward. And not just us, we're also calling on well-meaning Rivers indigenes to come out, those who live and work in Rivers State, those who do business here, that everybody should come out and support the government of Sasim Fubara so that we can move Rivers State to the next level.
Meanwhile, 2 more commissioners have joined 7 of their counterparts who resigned from the River State Executive Council. Well, the latest to throw in the towel are Commissioners for Special Projects, Emeka Woke, and Environment, Austin Ben Chioma. Mr. Woke was the Chief of Staff to the now FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, for the 2 terms that he was Governor of the state. He was also a former local government chairman of Emoa, while Mr. Ben Chioma was former Commissioner for Urban Development during Mr. Wike's administration. The letter of resignation by Mr. Woke is dated November the 14th, while that of Mr. Ben Chioma is dated December the 15th. The resignation of 9 commissioners from Governor Siminalayi Fubara's cabinet is set to signify an escalation of the political crisis in the state. At the moment, the River State Executive Council is left with about 8 commissioners. And now to Ondo State, southwest Nigeria, where governance may have returned to the path of normalcy following the transfer of power to Deputy Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa in acting capacity. But there are more agitations trailing the continued absence of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who is away on medical treatment. But this time, it's coming from a group of activists and stakeholders in the state, including the 2023 presidential candidate of AAC, Omoyele Sowore, and the executive director of civil society organization Enough is Enough, Yemi Adamulekun. At the town hall organized in Akure, the Ondo state capital, Mr. Sowore demanded the resignation of a governor due to his medical condition. For more stories now, the 2023 presidential candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, is adding his voice to the call for a thorough and transparent investigation into the military airstrike at Tudumbiri village in Kaduna State to identify and punish anyone found culpable. The former governor of Kano State made the call when he visited the surviving victims of the incident at the Barao Diko Teaching Hospital in the Kaduna State capital, while urging the federal government to ensure that the recent military-era bombing does not go the way of previous incident. Senator Kwankwaso appeals for more support for families of the victims.
As long as governments and all other stakeholders allow this to continue to happen, only God knows the next victim. It could be you, it could be me, it could be any other person. And that is why I very much support the issue of thorough investigation and, of course, punish all those who are found wanting in this particular situation. And I believe that government and all of us should keep our eyes and be our brothers and sisters keepers. These people are in their village. Little do they know that somebody will send bombs to destroy them, to kill them. And it could happen to anybody, anywhere in this country. And I'm happy that I came, I saw them, I was moved, I was shocked by what I have seen, especially the children, the women, and the old who were affected.
Now, there's been increasing interest in education among some internally displaced persons at the Home for the Needy Foundation, Ogo, Edo State. But this follows the sterling success recently recorded by one of them who bagged a first-class degree in chemical engineering. And in the face of this determination to succeed academically, well, textbooks, notebooks, and other learning tools have become a major need at the center, prompting the coordinator of the center to appeal for support in this and other areas. Our correspondent, Jega, has more.
As dusk begins to fall, it's leisure time for the internally displaced persons at the Home for the Needy Foundation, Uogwa, in the outskirts of Benin City, the Edo State capital. Some of them utilize the period in games and sports. The coordinator of the center, Mr. Solomon Folorenshaw, is actively engaged in a football game where the absence of football kits seems of little or no consequence. This beam of light heralds the return of a set of the IDPs who are students of the University of Benin from at the end of the day's lectures. Mr. Folorenshaw is informed of the arrival.
I wish you success. You will make it, you will make it.
Philemon Emmanuel is a 300-level law student. He shares his routine upon returning home from school daily.
After I remove my dress, look for something to eat, find water so I can take my bed, then have a little time so I can sleep and wake up around 10 or 11 to read.
In the open areas where the lamppost throws its light, the children in twos, threes or more cluster around the few available books to read, study and even coach one another.
Letter B is Sue. Yes. That means Sue all over 11. Yes. Require outcome over the total outcome. You understand? Yes.
The IDP's level of attachment to books clearly generates curiosity. Philemon, whom we catch just getting out of his nap for a study session, gives an insight into why they read as often as they do. In the case of the university students, many of the textbooks he reveals are borrowed.
I photocopied from my classmate. Yes. My colleague, she had the notes. I just asked her, can I photocopy so that I can have it to read because of my exams?
The center's coordinator believes the children's determination to succeed will keep yielding positive results, a reason he seeks the support of kind-hearted persons in providing the IDPs the bare necessities.
Textbooks that they are using are books that some persons donated, books that their children have used before, and their children have moved on, so they bring it here. That's how these children are successful. And that's to tell you that if governments or individuals out there, corporate bodies would intervene, provide books, provide writing materials, help the teachers, I tell you, these children are determined.
Nighttime activities at the Home for the Needy Foundation's IDP Center indicates that hope lives here, and each little assistance could well translate to more lives, fulfilling the dreams the Boko Haram insurgency nearly quashed years ago. Jessica Nuguse, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, says the federal government is determined to reduce the number of out-of-school children and also provide access to basic education for every Nigerian child. According to him, the government will also continue to prioritize the training of teachers to enhance the quality of teaching and learning in schools. Professor Mamman was speaking at the 67th National Council on Education, which held in Lagos.
It's the 67th National Council on Education meeting holding in Lagos. Education commissioners as well as permanent secretaries from the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, and various agencies are all represented at this gathering. Their main agenda is to address the challenges of policy implementation in the system, as highlighted by the Minister of State for Education.
Addressing the challenges of policy implementation, a panacea for the achievement of education 2030 agenda, is our utmost priority, since education is an instrument par excellence for social reconstruction and national development. The present administration gives higher priority to sector and is committed to providing quality education for citizenry.
The Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, who is also present, says the federal government is working towards repositioning the education sector by providing access to basic education and also address the menace of out-of-school children.
We must identify our challenges and adopt global best practices to make our education system relevant, effective and responsive to the needs of individuals and the country, and also enable and equip Nigerians to play their role on the international scene.
For the Lagos State government, innovation must be embraced to reshape the education system.
I enjoin you to share insights from the perspectives of your various states. Identify and embrace strategies that have yielded the desired results. More importantly, let us resolve to rededicate ourselves to ensuring that our policies are not just fantastic on paper, but are actionable and implemented to achieve the desired result.
Achieving the Education 2030 agenda is a collective effort on the part of the federal, state government, and other partners to ensure quality standard of the sector in Nigeria.
And away from education, President Bola Tinubu has described former President Muhammadu Buhari as a man of absolute and undiluted integrity. The president, in a statement by his spokesman, Ajuri Ngilale, while celebrating the ex-president on his 81st birthday, extols what he describes as the peerless leadership credentials and feats of the former president, recalling his service to the nation at various times as head of state and also civilian president. He reels out the former president's record of infrastructural provision, as well as the former president's push to modernize Nigeria's defense architecture while also working towards import substitution. According to President Tinubu, President Buhari is from the rarest phylum of virtuous servant leaders. He has devoted his life to the service of the nation, even earning himself detention for his patriotism and service to our fatherland. He adds that the emergence of leaders like the former president happens only by divine orchestration. And still to come on the news at 10, the local bourse marches on in bullish territory with the all-share index hitting a new high of 72,000, closing the week up 1.18%. But that's on business news. Do join us again. Well, let's bring you more this time on road accidents, as residents of Yobe State are lamenting the increase in accidents on the Kano-Damaturu-Maiduguri Expressway, resulting from overloading of goods and passengers, as well as overspeeding by drivers. According to the Federal Road Safety Corps, 4,387 lives were lost due to road accidents in Nigeria between January and June. And this figure translates to an average of 731 fatalities each month, with about 24 lives lost daily. In this special report, Channels Television's correspondent in Yobe looks at the major causes of the road crashes on the busy Kano-Damaturu-Maiduguri road.
These are some of the overloaded vehicles from Kantin Quarry in Kano State, heading to either Damaturu, Yobe State, or Maiduguri, the Borno State capital. The drivers explain the reasons behind the overloading, despite its implication on their lives and other road users.
This is the hardship experienced these days that promoted the overload. Without it, you may go to Kano and come back without getting anything, And sometimes we have to give something to security men on the highway. The high cost of fuel is responsible. When you load goods, you hardly get a yield from it to eat. We want the government to reduce the fuel pump price.
The Executive Secretary, Yobe State Emergency Medical Ambulance Services, and the Chief Medical Director of the Damaturu Specialist Hospital explained that the cases of accidents along the highway are at an alarming rate.
This agency has been responding to so many cases of road traffic accidents, and they are also associated with high overloading of passengers.
At least we receive cases nothing less than 3 incidents in a week. Sometimes the same day, you can find 2 or even 3 incidents at the same time.
The sector commander of Federal Road Safety Corps in the state narrates how they've been carrying out sensitization and arrests, but the efforts seem to be yielding very little result.
When we go to the parks, we don't just relent. We continue to remind them the issue of overloading, that motorists stop overloading. Loading is a grievous offense as far as offense is concerned. Yes, if we arrest you with an overloaded vehicle, we'll charge you. Sometimes we even keep your vehicle for some time.
Some of the residents blame the drivers for not giving value to their lives and also blame concerned authorities for their inability to punish the violators.
They are just neglecting the rules. They are just doing the way they like. In fact, they are just keeping an emphasis that, yes, we are now in the hardship. I have to overload so as I will have to deliver this, and at the end of the day, I will be able to do a 2-3 trip in a day.
To avert the daily reoccurrence of the road crashes, both government and road users must indicate willingness. Otherwise, it will continue to claim more lives.
In Ondo State, the immediate past Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Sharafa Ishola, has been speaking on ways to preserve government structure and policy continuity to ensure growth in the areas of economy and governance. He was speaking at a reception organized in his honor by his kinsmen in Abeokuta, the Ondo State capital, for his service to the country. Ambassador Ishola urged political leaders to avoid promoting self-interest, but rather project peace and stability for the greater good of the state.
Traditional rulers, political leaders, members of the Abeokuta Club, friends and family gather for a reception in honor of the immediate past Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Ambassador Sharafa Ishola, organized by his kinsmen from Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. He is being celebrated for his exemplary achievements in his service to fatherland while in the United Kingdom for over 2 years. Prominent leaders in Egbaland take turns to appreciate his sense of duty, patriotism, and forthrightness.
He is a thoroughbred, homegrown personality who is at home with all facets of the community. He is a bridge builder between the youth and the elders. He relates freely amongst all religious adherents and the traditional institutions. Our guest of honor is a modest and humble person, qualities which he exhibited and attested to by those who came across him in the various public positions he has held.
He presented this country in very, very good light during his ambassadorship. And not only that, he served the citizens of the country that needed any service when he was ambassador. It just ended up being such a wonderful gift to the nation.
And for a former governor of the state, Senator Bikunle Amosu, and the Alake of Egbaland, Aremu Gbadebo, the former High Commissioner remains an ambassador for Ogun State and Nigeria.
Ambassador Sharafa Ishola went, he saw, and everybody agreed that he conquered. So, well done. Dojutiwa, Aaron, Baba Dini, even up to the I say Baba Dini. But I'm happy that Baba Dini law, the ambassador, the ambassador Agbapani, de she that ori gogo to ye ko ri, o she gogo to ye ko she, o agba ori tó jẹ́ pé àwọn ará ìlú ọ̀hún náà wọ́n mọ̀ wípé wọ́n rán ẹni dáadáa wá.
They say it is not how far, but how well. His stay in Britain lasted just 2 years. It was an epoch-making period, a period when the Nigerian image was at the lowest ebb. But on Ambassador Ishola's arrival, he took over the issue of passport, ordinary passport. People never got any passport. They had to come back to Nigeria here to renew. During his time, even if your passport had expired, he ensured that you could come back to Nigeria on expired passport.
While thanking his kinsmen for the honor, the celebrant seizes the opportunity to touch on some of the political challenges in the state.
I want to enjoin all of us, particularly our traditional rulers, because that happens to be the only permanent feature in our society, to work towards ensuring that hostile succession is a thing of the past in Ogun State. And I'm challenging everybody in the political class here to also take up the challenge. So to everybody that is here, let me thank you very well for everything, because I'm short of words.
The occasion was rounded off with the launch of his new book titled Sharafa Tunji Shola, A Man with a Mission.
It's not an entirely happy story for some members of Obagi community in Abandonment local government area who claim that they have been rendered homeless due to the encroachment of gas pipelines belonging to Total Energies on their residences. Well, according to them, this matter has lingered for about 15 years, and they allege that while some families have received meager compensation, others have not received anything from the company. Our correspondent Deborah Agbalama reports.
This is Obagi in Obaibe Mandoni local government area of River State, a community that has played host to an international oil and gas exploration company, Total Energy E&P Nigeria Limited, for over 50 years. For over 5 decades, Total Energy has carried out oil and gas exploration activities here, with pipelines traversing different points in the community. As can be seen, the environment is largely deserted. Residents have moved out of there due to hazards of the pipeline crossing. As prescribed in the Oil Pipeline Act 1999, there should be 100 feet space between the pipelines and habitable buildings. According to Section 19 of the Act, pipeline operators are expected to compensate residents whose properties are encroached upon to enable them relocate. But Obagi community members allege that a meager settlement was handed to them, while some didn't even get a dime. They have all come together to speak in one voice for a particular community member, Eminike Oji, whose case seems more pathetic, with a family of 6. His 6-bedroom flat was affected by the pipeline activities and has been homeless for about 15 years.
This matter has been lingering for long. And you see, have done this pipeline here. Why they supposed not to do the pipeline behind the house, which is not up to 50 feet. And as they done it, all these things have never been paid. Even our family, Umukuru family, have never been paid. All this house have never been paid.
And as a matter of fact, during the acquisition of this pipeline, I was the contact man of Umosike Umokbro family that is in charge of OB30 and OB14 location. And as it stands now, Total claimed that they have compensated Umokbro family. But believe me, if they have compensated, they should bring a proof of compensation.
The victim, Emenike Oji, narrates how he was battered, allegedly by soldiers attached to Total Energy, in the struggle for his rights, and presents us with a court judgment against the company by a state high court sitting in Ahuda, which awarded him a 7 million naira compensation for the violation of his fundamental human rights. Mr. Oji claims that neither the money awarded to him by the court nor the compensation for rendering his property inhabitable has been paid by Total Energy.
I'm calling on media to look at this art, way Total art, whether it's a good art. The whole world, the civil society can come and look whether is it a good art. That's why I'm calling a media.
We sought to know if members of the Obagi community have taken their complaints to the appropriate authorities. A human rights activist who has been on the matter explains that Total Energy has continued to ignore several invites by the Rivers State Ministry of Environment, even after the investigative reports found Total Energy culpable on the matter in 2019. He explains that they also took the matter before the 9th National Assembly's lower chamber in 2022.
Years ago, Mr. Emenike Oji bought this property that is here and built this 6-bedroom apartment and was living peacefully with his family in it until Total Energy secured the license to construct this gas pipeline that runs underneath this headquarters. And in the course of the acquisition, they compensated most of the occupants here and demolished their buildings, but refused to compensate Mr. Emenike Oji, most likely because he does not have a voice or does not have anyone to run to. This pipeline is 14 feet away from the...
To ascertain that the distance equates the recommendations by the Pipeline Establishment Act 1999, the community brought a civil engineer to carry out the measurement on camera.
From the pipeline to the main building, which is about 91 feet, and it has the pipeline has fully encroached to the building, because measuring from this pipeline to the boundary, it is giving me 34 feet, which is supposed to be 50 feet.
While the affected persons like Mr. Oji remains homeless, members of Obagi community say they have exhausted all options and are now calling for help, as they also lament an alleged intimidation by Total Energy.
There's no law under Total and the landlord, but now there's law on it. So we find them guilty as I, the Royal Majesty, for them to pay Ezo Omobo, the third, for them to come and pay them the money that is required for them to settle. Thank you.
Not responded. So we are now saying that Emenike and every other person should be fully compensated.
We contacted the General Manager Community Relations of Total Energy, Mr. Nwachukwu, who directed us to the manager legal. We spoke with him and he declined to speak on the matter, redirecting us to the media department and gave us an email. We sent a mail and are yet to get a reply over 24 hours after. However, information reaching us just before filing this report is that the National Assembly lower chamber had directed both parties to resume discussions on Tuesday, the 19th December 2023. From Obagi community in Oba Ibe Matundoni of River State, Deborah Balama, Channels Television News.
And now to company news. Bang & Olufsen, a renowned international audiovisual brand, has opened the doors to its flagship store in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial nerve center. The new store showcases the brand's full range of luxury speakers and televisions, and according to its chief executive officer, Adeoju Adelakun, the showroom is designed to cater to the needs of individual customers by offering an immersive and tailored shopping experience.
Known to be one of the prime locations for corporate businesses, could be the reason for situating Bang & Olufsen showroom on Adetukumbo Ademola Street in Victoria Island, Lagos. To celebrate the opening, the management of the store has invited guests, including former Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, who joins the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Providus Bank, to cut the ribbon and officially unveil the showroom. The store showcases Bang & Olufsen's range of high-end luxury speakers, televisions, and sound accessories. Every product is characterized by the unique combination of beautiful sound, timeless designs, and unrivaled craftsmanship.
This is called Shape, and we want every customer to be able to design what they want on their wall. And I mean, we have different colors that you can place on them, so you can put up anything you want. It can be 50, it can be 100 tiles if you have the wall to take it. A lot has been put into this. To set up the Abuja store, it took us almost 2 years. And we've been on this for almost 2.5 years. But I mean, I'm happy we're finally there.
The store also has demonstration spaces, delivering an immersive experience that showcases the product at their best and place.
At Bang & Olufsen, put this together so that you have perfect sound coming out from our speakers. All our speakers are amplified. So once I have the drawing, it is easy. I have 3 architects that can draw out and place products for you. We'll sit down with you and put you through what can be where, based on budget sometimes. And if we don't have constraint of budget, sky is the limit. You can do anything.
Founded in Denmark in 1925, Bang & Olufsen's heritage began with a vision to redefine how sound will be consumed for generations to come. Since then, the brand has shaped the history of audio technology with craftsmanship and high-quality sound.
Olade Williams is here with more business stories on the news at 10.
Thanks, Kayode. Well, in business, ease of doing business in Nigeria is dominating conversations right now, as most businesses are burdened by issues of multiple taxation. Recently, the Harvard Business School Association of Nigeria hosted Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman, Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. The event was themed Reform of Nigeria's Fiscal System. Stakeholders addressed the various reforms being embarked on by the committee and the potential implications for Nigerian businesses and business owners. Mr. Oyedele justified why the federal government is reviewing Nigeria's withholding tax laws to ease the burden on businesses.
So we actually have drafted a new withholding tax regulation already as we speak. The only reason why it hasn't been published is because some of the things we included require that we amend some of the existing laws. So we put the amendment in the emergency bill, waiting for the lawmakers to pass so we can then issue the regulation. But I can discuss the principles. If you are not liable to tax, then nobody will deduct withholding tax on you. If you are liable to tax, we've made a distinction between active and passive income. So you earn dividend, you earn interest. Globally, the rates are high, so we can keep those at 10%. But if you're doing services, for example, or you're selling, in fact, if you're a manufacturer, we've put it at 0, no withholding tax. But if you're a contractor, you're a service provider, we've reduced the rates. And some sectors have given us data, because, I said data, we're really big on data. So they give us data like the guys who do this, the telecom infrastructure. Their margin is so thin that. So we thought that the best they could accommodate is 2%, so we're reducing their withholding tax rate to 2%. So we've thought about that carefully. We think it should help because it's placing a lot of burden on working capital of businesses. They can't expand, they can't grow.
And while trainings and workshops on curbing illicit financial flows and corrupt practices may be directly targeted at public office holders, the impact trickles to average citizens. This is according to the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Bubakar Bagudu, and is a reason for increased participation and scrutiny of government spending and other activities by average Nigerians. Mr. Bubakar Bagudu shared this view after spending and attending a session on benchmark macroeconomic models for effective policy management in Africa, hosted by the Public Finance Management Academy for Africa, an institute of the Africa Development Bank Group. The minister is encouraging even more citizens to get interested and ask questions on government activities. And the month of December is looking really good and bullish for the equities market as the NGX closed the week in positive territory at up 1.18% to close the week at 72,389 points. The market recorded total turnover of 1.88 billion shares, worth 31.63 billion naira in 33,020 deals. To sectoral performance, NGX Banking Index rose the most, 7.01%. Insurance was down 0.96%, while industrial sector was up 0.24%. Consumer goods added 0.22%, while NGX oil and gas was down 0.27%. Infinity Trust Mortgage Bank PLC led 53 gainers for the week, while Secure Electronic Technology PLC led 32 decliners. Trading in the top three equities, namely Access Holdings PLC, Guarantee Trust Holdings Company PLC, and Zenith Bank PLC, measured by volume, accounted for 491.5 million shares, worth 15 billion, helping the financial services counter. And that's it on business news. Back out to Victoria for sports.
Thank you, Laddie. Welcome to Sports News. Luton captain Tom Lockyer is now in a stable condition in the hospital after suffering a cardiac arrest that led to his side's Premier League clash against Bournemouth being abandoned. With the score level at a 1-1 draw in the 65th minute, Lockyer suddenly fell to the turf in a worrying scene. The play was paused as the Luton defender received treatment from medics, while both sides were sent to the dressing room. Lockyer was eventually stretched off, surrounded by the medical team, and then taken to the hospital. And in the English Premier League, Chelsea returned to winning ways with a hard-fought 2-0 victory over a dogged Sheffield United at Stamford Bridge, courtesy of goals from Cole Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. Man City's stuttering title defence suffered another blow as Michael Olise's 95th minute penalty rescued a dramatic point for Crystal Palace, ending the game 2-2. Elsewhere, Newcastle bounced back from Champions League elimination with a 3-0 win over 10-man Fulham. In the last game of the day, Everton made its 4 wins in a row after beating Burnley 2-0 at Turf Moor. And back home, the 55th edition of the Malade Okoya Thomas Table Tennis Cup will serve off from December 18 to December 20 at the Teslim Balogun Stadium in Surulere, Lagos. Over 100 senior and junior players are expected to feature in the competition. The Lagos State Table Tennis Association said this year's edition will be used to select its team for the 2024 National Sports Festival, while the Nigeria Table Tennis Federation confirmed it will use the tournament to discover young talents that can replace the aging ones. And that's it on Sports News. I'm Victoria Longton. It's back to you, Coyote.
Thank you, Victoria. Out of the country, hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Tel Aviv to protest the mistaken killing of 3 Israeli hostages in Gaza by the Israeli military. They marched through the city carrying posters of hostages still held in Gaza and calling on the Israeli government to urgently negotiate the release of the rest of the hostages being held by Hamas. An initial report by Israel's military into the deaths found that the hostages were fired upon against Israel's rules of engagement. The military has identified the dead hostages as Yotam Haim, Samir Talalka, and Alon Shamris, all kidnapped on October the 7th. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described the deaths as an unbearable tragedy. And the main news again. Former INEC chairman Professor Tahiru Jega has described Nigeria as a failing state. He raised the alarm while presenting the maiden combined convocation lecture at the Bauchi State University, where he called on leaders in the country to dialogue and ensure that the nation is restructured before the 2027 general elections. Well, the federal government has refuted a rumor of COVID-19 resurgence in the country and said there was no scientific evidence to back the claims. The Labour Party governorship candidate in Rivers State said the party has dropped the petition challenging the election of Governor Fubara, just as 2 more members of the cabinet have resigned their appointment. But that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Good night.